Welcome to episode 4 of Tiny Toys Tuesdays. James, are you there?
I'm here. Can you
All
hear me?
right, I can. All right. So I got James on here tonight. We're going through what is the current state of the meta for season 2 of the GHB, and it's definitely early season. So that's something to note. But yeah, cracked open a good double IPA and just ready to jump into this. How are you doing tonight, James?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, ready, excited for the topic. I always like talking current meta. I'm a big snooper. I like to spend some of my free time just looking at what results were for tournaments over the weekend and stuff. So, really excited about today's show.
Yep. You're a great fit for this because I know you've TO'd a bunch and you're kind of know a lot of the factions. So I mean, this is good to have you on here for this. So let us go into this. All right. So some things to take note before we get started here. First off, I do want to do this every so often throughout the season, just to kind of see where the meta is shifting to, what things are popular, what things are not popular. If you remember from last season, Bounty Hunters was a huge hit when it came out, right? Everyone ran them. And as the season went on, because Bounty Hunters was so egregious, people stopped taking GVs, right? So the meta shifted from, everyone taking Bounty Hunters, and then as that became more egregious, people just got rid of GVs and just were running like Cav for their um, uh, battle line and whatnot, right? So it's interesting to see how the meta shifts from season to season. So some things to note. Where there's a couple places you can go to see a bunch of stats. I think it's pretty difficult to get an all-encompassing stat repository from a bunch of stuff. So I know there's a bunch of places out there that people go to, whether it's Warhammer, Warhammer. We're using Honest Wargamer. They have a lot of stats, and it's easy to consume a lot of their graphs. So that's the reason why I went with them. There's obviously going to be some things that are not perfect on here, right? This is definitely more of a discussion and not super, this isn't the Bible, right? There's going to be some things like the top winning army right now. There's only three, I think, 3 or 10 games of them total. I think it's 3 games of them total, so they're the top. But in reality, there's only 3 games, so it doesn't really make sense for them to be at the top, right? So there's going to be a couple of those scenarios, but that's what we're dealing with. The other thing too is I did not do the world. I did North America. I think it's good to note your local meta, and obviously this channel and most of the people here are from North America. So I want this to be based on. I want you to be able to watch this, and then from your local meta, know what the meta is, right? So and then again, this is still early in season 2, about 920 matches. James, I know you had a couple of thoughts on this slide as far as just where the stats come from. So
Yeah, it's I think this is good that we focus on North America because you see, like, if you look at the numbers or the lists, like outside of the U.S., and there's like 3 regions in particular that I'm talking about. There's Europe, there's North America, and then there's Australia. And you look at the lists that win at those events, and you can see a very different dynamic than what you find in the U.S. And if you start trying to, I think, analyze the world, I think you are going to have difficulty understanding, especially if we're looking at what market we're trying to push to. If we're wanting to talk to people that are going to LVO or some type of big event coming up and they want to know what's doing good, I think, focusing on the U.S. is the right approach.
yep, yep. I tend to agree. You can obviously go check these sites out and look at the stats if you want to play around with them. Honest Wargamer's got a really good little set up where, I mean, you can drill down to pretty specific statistics, whether it's world or whatnot. So I definitely recommend, if you're into this type of thing, definitely go check out Honest Wargamer or any of the other ones. They're all decent. I just chose to use Honest Wargamer because I like the graphs and it's easy to consume. So, all right, let's go into some of the topic here. So we're basically talking about every faction. We don't have to make this long and drawn out. I don't. That's not the goal. It's just to kind of see what the meta is currently. This is just the meta representation, basically what people are taking right now, and it's. I don't think there's any surprises here. Obviously, Slaves is a huge hit after the book, and as well as Stormcast. Those are just the two main forces right now, so it's not surprising. I guess Gloomspite Gitz is definitely a lot higher now than it was. I guess. Is there any jumps or surprises here for you, James? Just looking at this.
I would say my biggest surprise, I think that might be coming into this season, is how high Nighthaunt is.
Yeah.
When Bounty Hunters was in play, they got oppressed quite a bit because most of the stuff that they wanted to run was, those heroes that just fit right into that GV or that that slot to get Bounty Hunters on. Even though there's a big representation of Nighthaunt players because of how much Soul Wars boxes were pushed out in second edition. And it's good to see it coming up, because I think this is going to be, Nighthaunt is definitely one of my picks for a very strong army coming into this GHB. And I think this is just showing that a lot of players are picking them back up, and a lot of the top players are seeing how effective they are.
Yeah, I agree. The other one on here too that I think is interesting is Disciple of Tzeentch. This is a really good GHB for them, I think, because they don't focus too heavily into shooting unless you're playing the sub faction, of course. But they've got easy ways to remove the Galatian champions. So I'm surprised they're not a little higher on this list. I was a little surprised by that. The other one too is Seraphon has taken a plummet, and I think they've gotten so price gouged as far as price increases that it's hard to play them now. And they're coming up with a new book, so I think that'll change. But in the current meta, they're pretty low on the totem pole right now as far as how many people are playing them. All right, let's move on to the next thing. This was an interesting one. I kind of put this in here to kind of see what TOs are using for the battle plans. I mean, I don't know if there's anything we want to talk about here. I mean, how many games have you played, James? Is there anything that sticks out to you in here?
Yeah, so I think this is really important, especially as a TO. That you probably, since you don't run events, this isn't something that jumps out to you. But the thing is, almost all of these battle plans here that are below the Jaws of Gallet are actually 2 to 4 objectives. Jaws of Gallet is the only 5 in the book, and so TOs are leaning into variety of that 5-point objective mission to add some variety to their tournament packs. So it's almost worth just crafting your list with the idea that this Jaws of Gallet is going to be in the pack, because of the because if you take a 3 objective map and you make it 5 rounds of 3 objective maps, it skews a list to very distinct 2 block types. But when you have a 5 objective list, it requires you to spread out your army to be able to pressure far objectives.
Okay, yeah, I see that. I've definitely noticed in this GHB too, a lot of the objectives are really close to each other. You don't have to stretch out so far for a lot of them. There was one in here where it is the worst one to me, and I think, yes, is it Twists and Turns? and it's not on here. Thank God. I think that is one of the worst ones. Twist and Turns is the one where you can turn off. You have the active and inactive objectives, and depending on the dice roll, it'll turn it on or off. I think that is the worst one, and I'm glad that it's not on here and not being used. It's just like Realmstone Cache, where it's based on a dice roll, and I don't know if that's super competitive.
I've played it twice.
I have too.
Since the GHB's come out, and it's so hard to plan your follow-up turn.
Yeah.
Like you're moving, you get in everything in position and what you think is going to work, and then everything gets shut off that you're sitting on, and it doesn't come back. It's very, very difficult to score.
Well, I think the worst part of that one, too, is half the players forget to do it. And then you're midway through the turn, and you can't really go back to figure out what's active and what's not active, because you've already ruined that timing. So I'm glad that this one's not in the list. I absolutely hate that one. I think it's cool from like just a, go play with your buddies type of thing, but I don't know if it's very... It's just like Realmstone Cache, and that's why it's so low on here too. It's based on a dice roll, right? So
first time I played this, I didn't even realize, or played Twists and Turns, I didn't even realize there was objectives in the corner.
Oh yeah.
And we only played with 3, and so I was shutting off like just all 3 objectives, and it was pretty terrible.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to. I wanted to put this in here because I think it's definitely a big deal now that we've gotten rid of bounty hunters in the last season. I think that this first turn, I think Battle Regiment is going to be prevalent in almost every list. I think I definitely think that there will be some sort of nerf to Battle Regiment as we go on. I don't know if they're going to put that in the battle scroll or something, but I do think because this is going to be used so often, they're going to have to do something. I think we're probably going to get something that was used in the Regiments of Renown, where the Battle Regiment, you have to set it up within a certain range or something. That will probably be something where maybe it'll tone down the Battle Regiment battalion, but I definitely think it'll be nerfed, because this 75% of people taking, getting a first turn priority with the Battle Regiment and just going low drops is it's a lot higher than it was last season.
Yeah, I think that has, as we'll see when we start going through this, I think what we're seeing is a lot of movement back to a shooting heavy meta, which will skew those lists needing priority, because getting double turned with a shooting list is almost a game over situation in most cases.
Yep.
So getting that priority, making your opponent go first, so that you don't have the threat of a double turn is critical to the success of a shooting army.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. And that kind of goes into the battalions used, right? Obviously, Battle Regiment. I mean, look at the skew on this. Like 65% of people are taking Battle Regiment. It's not surprising to me, but it's definitely something to look at. Games Workshop's something to look at that and try to reel that in. I'm almost positive. So, that's basically it. The other one in here too that is worth of note is if you look at Galatian Veterans and the Galatian Command. Galatian Command I thought would have been used a lot more, but at the same token, it's real hard to use that Galatian Command. The one thing I will say about Galatian Command, and I think that this will increase as time goes on, is one of the battle tactics you can use for Galatian Commands where you can kill something with either the hero or the bodyguard, right? You don't have to pick one. It's just if you kill it with either the hero or the bodyguard, you get the battle tactic. And I think that'll be used. I'm definitely using it on my list because it gives me another option for a battle tactic. But at the same time, you do risk going higher drops, right? So that's the push and pull on that. But I do think that may go up a little more just for the battle tactic alone, because playing a couple games, that first turn battle tactic is tough to get, unless your book, you have a good one for your book.
Yeah, I had that scenario. I played a tournament this weekend. We was playing the one with the 2 objectives all the way on the edge of the boards on the right and left side. And I was playing Nurgle with some 4-inch move heroes, and I didn't take Tunnel Master because I was taking Stubborn as a Rhinox to give me some more objective pressure, and I had no choice. No, there was no battle tactic that I could complete turn 1, which kind of hurt for me in that game.
Yep. I agree. That first turn is real tough. There's a lot of people failing that first turn battle tactic. All right, let's we got all of the factions to get through. So let's jump into it and go. So I did this from worst win ratio to best. The key note to know here is the amount of games played, right? Because this is going to skew the list a little bit, depending just on how many matches there were and how often they were seen, right? So this is we're gonna start with Heat Knights. It was the lowest one, and I don't think it's a shock to anyone that they were one of the fewest played, as well as the least win rate. They obviously need a book, so I mean until that happens, they're probably gonna still be on the bottom. I think I don't know if they work particularly well in this GHB. I've heard some things that maybe they are somewhat decent, maybe as a sleeper pick, but I think until they get a new book, it's just they're on the bottom. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, they Slaanesh is when I've seen the competitive lists for Slaanesh, it's always been a shooting heavy list in order to build into depravity points for as much summoning as you can get out of your depravity points. And they had such a hard time with that because they would get crushed so fast with bounty hunters in the last GHB. I think that they could do better, like in the current meta. I just don't think that there's anybody playing them because that was just such a rough season last season for them. And they've got a book coming out real soon. I think we'll see a jump in them. The thing is, like you say, they need a new book, but that's what they were saying back when the last book got released, and that did nothing for them. So I think GW needs to really go figure out what they want for the theme of this army and make it work, because what they have right now is just not showing.
Yep. And honestly, I would collect this army because I think it's absolutely awesome. Glutos, that model is absolutely amazing. I would play this army like so much. It's just so hard for me to get into this because of just how the lack of competitiveness this army has currently. So they definitely need a new book, and hopefully they get one soon here. Going into the next one, OBR. This also probably isn't too surprising. The only thing I'm going to say about this, that I mean, still not too low of matches. There's still 30 matches here. I'm a little surprised without bounty hunters that there's still pretty low win rate. Bounty hunters was really bad for the Mortek Guard. So I'm a little surprised that this is still pretty low, but boy, they lack. If you are looking for GVs, GCs. Sorry, if you're looking for GCs, this is definitely not the army to go to. They literally only have 2 GCs that they can use, only 2, because one of them is technically on a mount, which is crazy. So this is from a seasonal GHB perspective. This is rough for OBR until they get a new book. That we do know they are getting a new book soon, but until then, still on the bottom.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely do better in the season, even before their book comes out, and it's mostly because right now they play really well into Slaves of Darkness, because Slaves mostly run a lot of -1 rend. The Mortek Guard can ignore that.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think they'll do better than what happened last season. I just think like we need some more players to pick them up. I think the book will see a big jump in meta representation, and I think there's some play in it. There's some stuff they don't get to take advantage of any of the good command abilities because of how the book's written.
Yep,
So
agreed.
I think that just all needs to get baked in and worked out in this new book. But I definitely think they're better than what's showing here.
Yeah, I agree. It is interesting too that Galatian Veterans is the most used battalion. I think they use that because of the Mortec Guard and whatnot to get that double fight. I guess they're on they're 28 mils, so maybe they're not. I mean, I guess they would be using this for the what are those guys? The
Stalkers?
yes, the Stalkers. That's probably what they're using them for, is that battalion. So yeah. All right. This one's a little surprising to me. I'm not gonna lie. Soulblight, they've got a lot of GCs they can choose, and they're not terrible. I'm a little surprised that they're pretty low on the totem pole as far as percentage. There's a lot of matches played here too, so this one does shock me a little bit. Without bounty hunters, zombies are back in the mix. Skeletons are back in the mix. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why this is so low. I don't know. I'm not sure on this one.
So the thing is, like, Soulblight is, at least from what I've been seeing, so I played a Soulblight player this weekend, and I think what we are seeing point representations like Blood Knights. If we look at Blood Knights, and you know they've got a great save, they can do a little bit of damage on the charge, but for what they're bringing on their points, I feel like we're getting more for like the Slaves of Darkness Knights. I mean, and I think they cost less. So I think that we're just a little overcosted in some of their key units, like the Blood Knights. I also think that these guys will start to climb back up as shooting becomes more prevalent, because Soulblight plays so well with large blocks of hordes into shooting, because you just can't shoot off a 60 block of skeletons,
right?
You know, and they're just going to keep coming back. So it's just, I think it's going to take some time. They've got a new book coming out soon too, but I really think they just need a little bit of points adjustment to bring in some more punch with the zombies, and then they're going to be in a good spot.
Okay, that's fair. I'm hoping these guys bump up a little bit again. They've got a lot of options for GCs, and I do think they will bump up. I'm a little surprised they're so low, but we'll see how the. Which one's the Castelli dynasty? That is the. Is that the spell? Kind of the reroll spells. I know. Vikros is the. That's the dog one, right? See, this is why I need to.
Cameron would be the one to ask.
Yeah, I know. Cameron would be the right person to go to on this. But anyway, we'll move on. I think Castelli Dynasty is the
That's the K1 is the vampire one where you can take Blood Knights as battle line.
Okay. All right. Oh, hold on. Why are we going back? Why did I do that? So Cities of Sigmar. Next up on the list, this is an army that I don't know very well. I would resort to Cameron on this one. I know Hallowheart and Living City are the two main sub-factions that are used for this. I know they've got a lot of options, but I don't know this army very well.
Yeah, this army was really good before they nerfed the movement after shooting command ability. It's got such a wide range of units to choose from, though, that it's always got a chance to be competitive. And I ran a GT last September, had a Cities of Sigmar player win it, and it's just it's a lot of pieces to put into play, a lot of shooting to control. It takes a really skilled general to like take these very different pieces and put them into play. And I think they probably don't have a lot of representation because just more shiny pieces out there. It's a very dated line, but I think with the re-release of the line, I think this will be one of I think this will be one of people's favorites armies to run, like right next to Stormcast. I think this is, from what I've seen of the line, I think this is going to be a very fun army to play.
Do you think they will jump up in the win rate for this GHB?
So what I think so, and I say that because like the best representations of these lists run Phoenix Guard, and Phoenix Guard got hard hurt with bounty hunters. People were taking bounty hunters with crutch Phoenix Guard, even with a 4-up, you're just taking too much damage. Now you take a 20 block of Phoenix Guard and you sit them on an objective. That is a very, very hard block to move, and a lot of maps are 2 objectives. So that's like guaranteeing you some points for a 20 block of Phoenix Guard. So I think their win rate will go up.
Okay. This one's, I bet, this isn't surprising to me, but I bet it's surprising to some people. Daughters of Cain is on the decline. And I think it's just for the fact that they're so glass cannon right now. And there's just so many new books that are out that can counter this army. I think that's part of the problem. Also, they're somewhat slow, especially as far as like some of the GCs they have, so they can't play well into the meta. But any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Daughters, and I think Daughters are in a good place. I don't think this is represented, and I say that because Matt Wynn, or they call him the Nuge, who's a famous piece of Chaos player, he switched to Daughters of Cain for this season.
Okay.
And I think that screams volumes to me that one of the best things that Daughters of Cain has going to it for it is great battle tactics in their book.
That's true. 100% true. Yeah.
And when you've got a season like this where battle tactics can be tough to come by, or you're forced to bring GCs to get them, having great book battle tactics can speak volumes. So I think the only thing I think really holding them back is they've had a couple of point hikes because of being overproducers for a couple of rotations through the battle scroller thing.
Yep.
And but I think they're in a good spot. I don't think they're this bad. I would say they're right there at A tier. The battle tactics make them really competitive.
That's super fair. What's also interesting to note on this is the look at all the sub factions that are used and how often they're used. They've got such a good variety of sub factions they use. I think Drakey Ganeth is going to increase as well. I think the Sisters and the Witch Elves spam is still prevalent, and I think that's going to be used more and more. And I think we're going to see less and less Miraculous, but we'll see what happens. I know Erica is probably bummed that this is so low, but I think it's the time for Daughters is over, and there's new sheriffs in town as far as the meta goes.
I think if she drops Marathi and starts bringing Witch Elves, though, she'll find a lot of play with this army.
Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Witch Elves, is the
Oh.
problem. It's all snakes is what we use. So we'll have to get some new models. We don't have a single unit of Sisters, so we'll have to do that. Next up is Blades of Khorne. I think they're right where they're supposed to be. This doesn't surprise me at all. I will say they're not very used very much, and that doesn't surprise me. They should be getting a new book here soon. I think it's soon, right? A couple weeks, probably.
I would say by the end of this month, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they will increase matches played by a lot. I don't know what their win rate will be, but I'm hoping with how the 3.0 books have been coming out, I hope they get a pretty good glow up for Blades of Khorne. So, not surprising. Reaper's Vengeance is obviously the main sub-faction used. It's basically the one to go to. I think they're right where I would put them as far as win and matches played.
Yeah, I've seen two play styles with Blades of Khorne. One of them is your Bloodthirster Scarbrand spam,
Yep.
and the other one is a Mighty Skull Crusher spam, where you just take the 9-man blocks of those Skull Crushers that are on a 3-up save, do D3 mortal wounds on the charge. But the thing is, like, almost nobody runs that Mighty Skull Crusher spam. Almost every Blades of Khorne player is like, I want to run my big demons, and I
why
want to charge.
not?
Yeah. But the problem is, right now in the meta, what am I going to shoot? I'm going to shoot your big demons. Lumineth's going to take off maybe one, maybe two Bloodthirsters a turn with the shooting. That goes for Stormcast as well. Like, you're just putting liability on the table. You're gonna lose too much of your abilities. Before you're even in on turn 2 or turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing that we've talked multiple times on. Is the shooting is going to be way more prevalent this season than it was last season. I mean, I know there's ways to not shoot off, GCs and whatnot, but if your army is completely shot off the board, you don't really care at that point, right? So, yeah, I think shooting is still going to be pretty prevalent this season. Stormcasts. This was a little surprising to me, especially with the amount of options they have. I think, I'm subscribed to the Stormkeep and I watch a lot of their videos, and I do agree that they do have a tool for every battle they fight. They've got so many different models and different utility that they're an awesome army to take, and they can counter anything. It's just what you're facing and when you're facing it, right? So I'm a little surprised they're a little low. I thought they'd be a little bit higher than this. Obviously, you see the matches played. There's so many people playing Stormcast right now, and I think it's for that reason that they can take so many different utility pieces. They've got great GCs. I mean, what's the one? Is it Night Vexilor is the one that can teleport?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one that can teleport across the board, and he's a GC, so like he can just take points. I think it's the Night Vexilor. I might be wrong on that. I'm gonna check that out. But I think they are in a good spot. I think once we get further into the season, they will jump up a little higher as they figure out what the meta is, and they can shift into countering whatever that is. So I definitely think they will jump, but right now they're a little low. A little surprising to me.
Yeah, I think it's always tough with Stormcast because they always have such a strong meta representation, and like almost every new player just jumps in and wants to, they are obviously jumped into the flagship boys. They see Stormcast, all the great collecting boxes have Stormcast in them. So you always got to kind of take Stormcast results with like a little bit of that knowledge that it's just so predominant with new players. The thing is like their long strikes that they had was their biggest punch power back in before the nerf to shoot twice.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I think a lot of the new players don't realize that what you're shifting to now is big blocks adjudicators.
Yeah.
And that struggled back when that was in last season because they were GC or GV.
Yeah.
So you had adjudicators and they got touched by anything, they exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not, though. Now there's the double damage on them. So even if they get touched a little bit, they could survive. And it's just getting people to realize, where the meta's going, what's strong. And I think I saw 2 to 3 Stormcast lists this weekend at my tournament. One was Dragon Spam. Another one was, is just running a lot of the big foot heroes. And I think people just need to, it's a lot of people want to play this army how they collect it and not how it's going to perform at the top level.
Yeah, the other thing to note too here is how high Hallowed Knights is. I think Gardas is a key piece in this because of what we were talking about earlier, where the objectives are so close that castle armies love this new style because they can literally just move up slowly and slowly and go where they want to. And Gardas is great because he gives that ward to all of them, right? So I definitely agree why Hollowed Knights is such a high sub faction to use right now, and why they're winning so much with that faction is because I think he's a great inclusion into what we're seeing right now. So, all right, moving on to Nighthaunt. We talked a little bit about this. Look at the matches played. A lot of people playing Nighthaunt, and you know, it's funny. I'm not a huge Nighthaunt player. The very first tournament I won, I played Nighthaunt on a whim, and I took. It wasn't a great list, right? I took Nagash because I knew their spell lore was great, and I took Nagash and a bunch of Revenants, I think it was, and I ended up winning the tournament with that. And I gotta say, playing Nighthaunt is a lot of fun just for the fact that there's so many parts of the army that are so easy, right? 6s to hit automatically won't. You don't have to keep rolling stuff like that. 4-up ethereal saves. Don't have to worry about any rend. Like, it's just so easy to use this army. I think in the hands of a good player, they're super lethal. But I think a lot of new players can pick up Nighthaunt and do well with it because their rules just are good for new players. And I definitely think their win percentage might go up a little bit more. I think they've got a lot of good GCs that take advantage of the current GHB with their teleporting and shenanigans and whatnot. So I definitely think this will go up. Nothing too crazy here. I'm a little surprised at how many people have played it, but again, it's an easy army to use, so not surprising to me on that front.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think even the GCs like not teleporting, even just they're just fast, and you want to bring them. Like you're gonna bring GCs to support your blocks. You were doing that anyways for this army. Now it's just giving you something.
Mm-hmm.
They are really strong. If they had some better book tactics, they would be extremely punishing on the tabletop.
Yeah.
The like it's just they're just I mean you said it all. They're just really strong. They're great for new players. I mean it's just they're gonna be a tough army to beat. The only caveat I have to that is so as we start to move into a shooting meta, people will start to bring hordes where Nighthaunt excels in, but as the hordes become more prevalent to counter the shooting, people are going to start bringing large amount units that can push out a lot of attacks, and that's where Nighthaunt starts to fall flat.
Yeah, okay.
Is when they get a lot of attacks put into them.
Yep.
So I think they're going to start out the season strong. But I fear as the meta shifts to counter hordes eventually after the shooting, they might find some fall off.
Okay. The other thing to note here is the Scarlet Doom subfaction is the most used, and I believe that's the Scarlet Doom is the one where they don't get the ward on the Dread Scythe Herodins, right? Pretty sure that's the Scarlet Doom, and it's on the lowest win rate as well, so that's a little surprising to me. I know Grieving Legion's obviously the one. I'm a little surprised Emerald Host isn't higher. I think the automatic D3 plus 1 or D3 damage a turn is good for GCs. Maybe it's not killing them fast enough. Maybe that's the problem. But I expect to see Emerald Host go up a little bit, maybe. That's the only other thing I would say on this. I don't know if is this real? What is the Galatian sharpshooter. You're not going to take crossbows in this. I'm not sure why that's such a high win rate. What would shoot?
The only shooters you have are those crossbows.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why that's so high. I don't know if that's an error in the.
I'd be interested to see if what grand strategies they're taking, because if Nighthaunt elite players are taking the day is ours grand strategies, they want to have something that can shoot those GCs or get rid of the GCs. So maybe they're taking the day is ours, and then they're taking the Galatian sharpshooters with the crossbows to pluck off the GCs in the opponent's army so that they get their grand strategy.
That's interesting. That is very interesting that the majority of win rate for battalions and sharpshooters. It's also the least taken, so that's a very interesting tag. That's a very interesting stat right there. Interesting. All right, moving on to Kruleboyz. All right, so I recently just got a Kruleboyz army, and I was looking at some of their war scrolls, and they're gonna come up, right? Like in this GHB, I know they die real quickly. Like they're not tanky by any stretch, but a lot of their GCs, I mean, they've got a lot of them. They've got a lot of damage output. I'm a little, and they're cheap. Like they keep getting point decreases. This is gonna go up, right? I can't imagine it staying at 44%. I don't know. I feel my heart tells me that these guys are gonna go up.
So the problem with them right now, and I don't think it was represented great in the meta representation, but I've seen a lot of Sylvaneth players playing.
They're one of the top armies for sure.
Right, and so big Kruleboyz excel at those bolt boys with the mortal wounds on the shooting, but they're susceptible to getting shot. And Sentinels just outrange them.
Yeah.
And will put them off the board turn 1 or turn 2, before they even get a chance to do anything. And now Kruleboyz have lost the biggest power project in the army. And then the rest of their stuff just kind of falls over to mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So I think they want to play the shooting game. The problem is the good shooting game armies right now are just really good at it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, shooting's not great for the Kruleboyz for sure. They definitely suffer in that, but man, I really want to pull these guys out and use them. I think their rule set's pretty cool. I wish they were a little bit more tanky. I can definitely see shooting being an issue, and yeah, Sylvaneth is prevalent right now, as we'll see in a couple slides. So, Maggotkin, kind of exactly where I thought they'd be. Played quite a bit with 100 matches played, 45%. That's pretty accurate. I think that one thing that Maggotkin excels at in this GHB is, again, how close the objectives are, because they're a pretty slow army. So they don't have to go so far to get these objectives, and it's hard to remove them. The other thing that's noteworthy on Maggotkin is the fact that they can summon GCs, which is pretty good in this current GHB for the amount of battle tactics you need for them. So I do think that's they have that going for them. They might jump up a little bit, but they're right where I think they would be.
Yeah, as a Nurgle player, played them, went 3-0 this weekend with them.
Nice.
They've got, so they were pretty decent. The Blight Kings were not usable in last season because of bounty hunters. Now that they're usable again and they're back to being tanky blenders, Nurgle stocks go up. They do suffer from they have like one good battle tactic in their book, so you do kind of have to plan around that. But what's really going to help, I think, Nurgle and most of the Chaos armies is like the War Scrolls inside of Beasts of Chaos just pump up these books. So Like Nurgle taking a Chaos Gargant is giving your Blight Kings an extra rend. So now you're -2 rend on 6 attacks each, or 5 attacks each, but 6 with with your hero.
Right.
And you know, that extra rend goes a long way for most armies. It's and the thing is they're resilient to Sentinels. You know, I've got a 10-man block of Blight Kings. I've got a 5-up ward to 4 wounds each. And so they hold up to the shooting, which makes them, I think, a much better army. I think the win rate is probably close to going to be like 52%, like after it all stabilizes.
Okay, I can see that.
So.
Do you think, how well do they go up against something like Gloomspite, right? Where there's a lot of attacks, a lot of attack meta.
So my last match was against Gloomspite.
Was it Jaws?
It was Jaws, lots of squigs.
Yep.
So the thing is, though, I built my list to specifically counter Gitz.
Okay.
Because I was so afraid of them.
Yeah.
What I had was one of my heroes had the command trait that makes it so if you're within 7 inches, you can't issue a command. And if you're wholly within 7, you can't receive it.
Right.
And then I had a Mega Gargant as well as another smaller Gargant. And the Mega Gargant stops them from Inspiring Presence. My champion stopped them from Inspiring Presence. And my Mega Gargant could eat the champion. Or my Mini Gargant could eat the champion in the units. So my opponent was teleporting all of his stuff behind my units and charging in, and I was holding up because I was just super resilient, and then I would knock out a bunch of his stuff and make it so he couldn't Inspiring Presence, and so he lost the whole unit. But that's it was still oppressive. It was still hard because, you know, he would bring the unit back, and then anything that I didn't immediately kill, he was 4-up rallying.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody really fares great into Gitz right now, but I think I fared better because that's what I was expecting when I built the list.
That's fair. All right, moving on to Slaves. Again, a little surprising on this stat. I think the win rate should be a little higher than this with all the... they just have so many good units. They've got a wide variety of units they can choose from, but the good ones are very good. So I expect this to go up a little bit. Again, the match is played. There's so many people after the new book using Slaves right now. So if you're going to a tournament or something, you definitely have to plan for going up against Slaves. And they do everything very well. If you watch Warhammer Weekly, they basically put Slaves right in the middle of that Timmy, Spike, Johnny army, a psychographic profile, and they do everything very well. And you can push your list in any one direction because they've got so many good options to use. I do think that this will probably go up. The one thing that I don't know, I played a lot of Knights of Empty Throne and Hosts of the Everchosen. I am a little shocked that Cabal is sort of the most win rate subfaction. That being said, I don't use Cabalists. I don't have a lot of those units. So I know they're decent. I think the Splintered Fang, that's what people are running right now, spamming those things. So I know they're decent. But I don't use much of them. But I definitely see them going up a little bit. They've also got a lot of GCs they can use. They're slow, but they are very useful. I mean, the Sorcerer's Lord is almost it's an auto include if not having 2 of them, right? So I would expect them to go up a little bit, but I definitely if you're planning on going to a tournament, definitely note that there will probably be a lot of Slaves players there.
Yeah, I definitely had that in mind. Once again, my list that I brought this weekend, the Gargants that I had, they slay banners. So that's like
Yeah.
a key piece to
That's a
defeating
very good
slaves is
point.
to get
Yep.
rid of the banners and the units.
Yep.
Um, it's just, when you tailor lists now, you think of slaves, you think of Gitz, and you think of Lumineth. Like, what do I need to do to beat those three armies? When you're building your list, and slaves, they've got like three main key threats with unkillable knights or unkillable warriors. Then they've got the punch of Varangard or Chaos Chosen,
Yep.
and they can be fast with Slaanesh. They can be super tanky with the Nurgle keyword. They've just got a great spread of power projection and power tools that they're just really strong. And I think the 47% here, I think you're spot on with. It's just an overrepresentation in the meta.
Yeah.
Lot of people playing them, so you're just not going to get the show what they can be done at peak performance. But this is a really really strong army right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And as you can see, that battle regiment, it's a big key for them as well, determining who goes first and second. If they have the option to go second to get that potential double turn with Chaos Chosen, they just do so much damage. They just do so much damage. So I definitely see them going up a little bit. Ironjawz. I now remember. I think. I guess I see 47%. A lot of matches played. So I guess it's pretty good representation of what the win rate is. The one key thing I saw on this slide was the fact that, and I don't know if it's a stat issue from Honest Wargamer, but is there a lot of Ironjawz lists that don't use Bloodtooths or Iron Suns?
I don't know if I've seen them.
I mean, I guess sub-faction usage is 7%, so it's really low.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not representation of the sub-faction win rate on the 80%.
Right.
I imagine that most people are running the pig lists and alpha striking out of the gate, which I think is good in this GHB because you take out, you basically pen them in so where their GCs can't get out and get those points. So I definitely see Ironjawz being good in that front.
Yeah.
Obviously, Battle Regiment is key for them, so they get that first turn. But anything here?
Yeah, I think what we may be seeing, and this is just kind of indicative of bounty hunters going away, is brutes are fairly cheap. Brutes and Ironjawz are a lot stronger than some people think. You give them 2 damage each from the War Chanter. You can teleport them with the caster. And then they come in, you pop your Waagh, they're -3 rend, 2 damage each on 3s and 3s. So, you don't need the pigs, and you don't need a pin army with these guys to do work.
That's fair.
And, another reason why I think most of these wins are probably attributed to I think his name's Skeeter or something.
Yeah, Scooter.
Caleb Waters. Scooter.
Yep.
Scooter's brother, probably skewing it a little bit on the win percentage there. But he, the thing is, they're bringing GCs too. They want to make Orc War Boss. They want an Orc Shaman. They want War Chanters, usually bringing 2 War Chanters. So you're bringing 4 GCs in your army anyways, and now you just get to use them. And now they can get you battle tactics.
And I think the Mega Boss is on foot is one of the best GCs as far as if you're going to use them in any of the heroic actions, right? He does the most output and damage. I was gonna. What else was I gonna say? I was gonna say I think we're gonna see more brutes and Ardboys, and the reason I say that is something we mentioned earlier, where the objectives are so close to each other. You don't have to get very far, right? Those brutes, even though they're slow, you just need to get them to the objectives, right? And then they can do it from there. because again, those objectives were so close to each other.
Yep.
Yep. All right, moving on to Beasts of Chaos. Now this is the new book. I have heard, and I don't know. You've been to more tournaments than I have lately because my work sucks. But have you seen a lot of new Beasts of Chaos lists and new from the new book? I heard that they are struggling with just how expensive their points are. Are you seeing that in the meta right now?
I do think they are overcosted a little bit, and but I don't think that is a representation of like why their players are struggling with it. Like the book is difficult. Like there's pieces there that make that book flow, and it can be really good, but it's also you're really going to have to play well, and you're going to have to know how the army works and what key pieces are going to make you win, and where you're going to be at, because like a Chaos Gargant is like one of their best pieces for extra Ren, but you can shoot him off. The Cockatrace is also one of the best pieces that they have, but you can shoot it off. And so like when your best key buff pieces or debuff pieces are shot, you're going to get shot off. You're gonna find that an army struggles.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. And there's not very many people playing them right now, so it's a little shocking with a new book. I thought they'd be a little bit higher, but maybe as we get into kind of the mid-season, maybe we'll see more of these tack on. Gave Spawn is also I knew that was going to be the highest one for the sub-faction win rate. It doesn't surprise me. Seraphon. These guys have taken a fall in the current GHB. Boy, they used to be on top, and they have struggled here. I think people are just waiting. Like 37 matches, not a whole lot. I think people are just waiting for the new book. The only thing I'll say with the Seraphon is, boy, their new models look beautiful. Oh my goodness. They just released the new Slan Starmaster and the Skink Starpriest. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Boy, they're gorgeous models, man. It makes me want to play Seraphon for sure. So, I think I think people are just waiting for the new Seraphon book at this point.
Yeah, I bet we'll see maybe a 4%.
Speaking of Seraphon, Erica.
I would be surprised to see a 4 to 5% meta representation swing with Seraphon when their new models drop. It's just they look amazing.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I definitely agree with that. I'm a little surprised Dracothian's Tail is 0%. That's crazy. You think the teleporting sub action would be Fangs is good. Obviously, they're also the Starborn, but I would imagine Dracothian's Tail would also be in there. But new book, definitely new book. Skaven. I thought these guys would have been higher. I'll be honest. They've got a lot of GCs. They have a lot of mechanics and utility that they can use against things. I see them going only but up in this GHB. Again, Bounty Hunters was so oppressive for them. I think these guys will go up for sure. That's my thought.
Yeah, Skaven's probably what I consider my main army. They're my love. I just I saw a recent list ran by Aaron Newbaum, something like that, at the Small Town Throwdown, to see what's kind of running, and it seems like there's two trains of thought for what people are bringing, and you're either going to bring like Scryer with the Storm Fiends shooting, or you're going to bring like a Molder heavy list with Rat Ogres.
Yeah.
And I think like there's a lot of good pieces in here that combo well together. And Vincent on Warhammer Weekly, he was like, trust in your rats. And I've been looking at lists and what to bring, and it's difficult for me to find things that survive the shooting and then also can punch into slaves or can punch into what's the other one? I mean, Stormcast is another one that's just tough. Like you don't have
they're not gonna. They're also not gonna play well into Lumineth right now.
Yeah.
I think when the Battle Scroll comes out, Lumineth is gonna get a nerf of some sort. I mean, they're so high in the win rate right now for the current GHB. They're gonna have to do something with that. So, I think part of the win rate percentage issue here is just what's doing well right now in the meta.
Yeah.
I don't know if they particularly play well against Gitz right now. Lumineth they're definitely not going to play well with, especially like a Helion Techless list. I mean, I just don't think they're going to play well into that. I think once we get to the point where the Battle Scroll nerfs some of those high tier armies, I think Skaven is going to take advantage of that and be higher in the win percentage.
Yeah, the top meta armies just do so well against Skaven that I think that's really what's hurting them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Sorry. Fyreslayers. What? Okay, this win rate is not right. This is not right. I did not update this. I'm going to look at it right now. This is definitely not right. I did not update this. Hold on. I will update it right now. Go ahead and talk about Fyreslayers. This army is crazy good right now. Crazy good right now.
Really good. Fyreslayers is in a great spot. Like they just have great GCs that people want to bring, and now you can't shoot off my GCs anymore, which was their biggest weakness.
Their support pieces, yep.
And we're back into like a 2 objective meta, 2 to 3 objectives, and blocks of Hearthguard Berserkers or Volkite sitting on an objective is exactly where they want to be. They're going to build a little house. They're going to have their support heroes making dinner, and they're going to never move, and they're going to get their battle tactics, however, with whatever support other things they bring in the army. But Fyreslayers really are going to be oppressive. I just don't think we're going to see a huge meta representation because not a lot of people are like, oh, look, I can paint, 100 and something little orange men. So that's what I want to make for my army. So, but that doesn't mean the army isn't strong and that they're not going to bring some punch.
Correct. I agree. And I updated the stats here. So 68 matches played, 12 tournament results, and win rate is 50%. That's going to go up. I don't expect that not to go up. The one key piece that they suffer from, I think, is anything that's taking monsters, right? They don't play well into Suns. If you can turn off their command points for them attacking first and stuff like that, they struggle and they can get taken down quite quickly. But boy, I do think this is one of the strongest GHBs to take Fyreslayers. I played a small little tournament thing at Monument Hobbies actually, and someone had Gotrek in their Fyreslayers list. That little dude, man, let me tell you. I will say, tough. Well, and it's worse in this GHB because again, those battle tactics are so close to the objectives are so close to each other that you have to really worry about that dude now. Like that's not something you can just run away from. I mean, he's dangerous at as close as those objectives are now. And dude, that guy does insane damage. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
it's just crazy. Fyreslayers is absolutely 100% a great army to take in this GHB. 100%.
Yeah, definitely A tier.
Yes, I agree. Tzeentch, 53%. This is definitely not surprising. I'm a little surprised at how many matches that are representation here, but if you can control a Disciples of Tzeentch army, I think this is a fantastic army in this GHB. The fact that they don't have to worry about shooting GCs off the board and they can rely on their magic to do it, uh, this is great. The freaking Guilds of Summoners is super crazy right now, man. They getting those damn chickens on the board. This is a tough army to play against in the new GHB for sure.
Yeah, I love Disciples of Tzeentch. I play the army quite a bit for fun when I meet up for my weekly meets, and they're a strong army. Like, they got great summoning, great board control. They can snipe GCs,
Yep.
and their book battle tactics are amazing, and their book grand strategy is amazing. So, like, these guys are bringing everything to the table to be great. The only times that they would suffer is some of the good heroes they have, like the Fate Master or your Lord of Change or Kairos. Some of the really good key pieces are on discs, which is considered a mount, and so they don't qualify as GC and they get shot off. And so that's the only reason why I don't think that they're not pushing higher into this list, because they could be really oppressive if some of their better pieces didn't have that vulnerability.
I'm actually a little surprised too that Host Duplicitous. I mean, maybe people don't take it because it's the worst sub faction to take. It is so miserable to play against that sub faction. But if you wanted a real crazy, non-friendly list to take, just take Host Duplicitous with a bunch of pinks, because they're back in the meta now without bounty hunters, and you just push into them and you can't retreat from them. That's a miserable list to play against, but it's good in tournaments, I would imagine. So,
I mean, that's what I play. I play Host Duplicitous. I just spam pink ores.
It's such a pain to play against that that sub faction for sure. All right, Sylvaneth. Probably a little higher than I expected as far as win rate percent. I definitely think the Mortal Wound Bomb is still apparent here. They've got decent shooting, I guess. I've never been a fan of the what are those things? The bow dudes, the
Kurnoth Hunters.
Yes, the Kurnoth Great Bows. I've never been a real fan of them, but they're pretty decent in this. The teleporting shenanigans for this is really good for GCs. So I am not surprising by this by any stretch. I think the sub-factions are all pretty decent, and they're all spread out pretty well. No surprises here.
Yeah, I think with Sylvaneth, like, they're probably in my top 5. I think though, like, I think they will struggle into Gitz because their fight and fade is not going to do anything. Like, they're going to fight into a line of squigs or something that's just going to rally up to full strength.
Yeah, that's fair.
The next hero phase.
Yep, that's super fair. Yep.
And then, what else am I looking at? I'm looking at them against Lumineth, and your Mortal Wound Bomb doesn't work against Techless.
Yep.
So he's shutting down that piece of your army, and then the Sentinels are just going to shoot your hammers. So then, what's next is, slaves, and I would say they probably fare pretty well in the slaves. I think, like, Gitz, Lumineth, and Sylvaneth would probably be, like, my top 3.
Yeah.
Sylvaneth is just really strong at everything but the top 2 armies.
That's fair. I will say I think you're going to see more Alarial lists with the with Sylvaneth now. I think you're going to see more Alarial around the board.
I don't know. To me, I just feel like you don't what they bring for a meta list with the fight and fade with, like, stingers or Kurnoth Hunters with, like, scythes or swords or tree lords. Like, she doesn't bring anything to that combo with the Warsong Revenant. Like, it just seems like she's a lot of points that take away from the key pieces that make that army what it is right now.
That's fair. I've been looking at a couple GTs, And a lot of the Sylvaneth lists, man, they've got Alario running in those top 10 lists for Sylvaneth. I think she's good just because she can hit like a truck and she can come back.
Hmm.
And in a horde type meta, I mean, you can waste your shots on her, I guess, if you wanted to. If you're a shooting army, you
Yeah.
could waste your shots on her, but she'll come back, right? So something's definitely. I think you'll see her a little bit more, but we lost James. What happened to James? All right, so we're on Ogre Mod Tribes. We're talking about Sylvaneth. So let's jump into Ogres. I don't know this army very well, so hopefully you do. I know it's widely used. I know monster trucks are a thing, but I don't know much more than that. I haven't seen many lists not using monster truck spam. So, what are your thoughts on the 53%?
Yeah, so Iron Blasters are really what was the key piece to this army. Like I've seen some different variants of it, but it's just some really good shooting. The thing is, like, they don't do well against like Gitz. You just can't shoot Gitz off. They're just going to come back too fast.
Okay.
They don't play well against Lumineth because Lumineth can punch into them. They don't play well against Sylvaneth either because Sylvaneth can teleport to them, and they can stay out of range and then teleport and then fight and fade back. Outside of those three armies, though, they just crush like the lower lists.
Okay.
Like any of the stuff below 50% against Ogres is just oppressive. Even the Beastclaw Raiders, the Tuskard and Stonehorns, they're just such a Timmy army, push forward, smash, and they do it so well that it's hard. They're hard to deal with. I would say they're like right on par with Slaves, Slaves and Stormcast. Like it's just really good. They struggle into Nighthaunt a little bit because of the number of bodies, the 4-up, and then the mortal wound saves. But they're just a really solid list.
Yep. The other thing to note here too is like what you said, the win rate versus the bottom of the list, right? The bottom, 50%, 45% of the armies they do really well against, which doesn't surprise me. I'm a little shocked too that there's so many people playing them still. 126 matches for this. Like, they are still a widely used army. So,
yeah, I mean, they're another one of those easy new player armies.
Okay.
You get to pick some big guys up on some mounts. You pick some ogres up. They're not a lot of bodies. And it's a real easy, straightforward. Oh, I get to move faster because I'm not next to you. Oh, I'm next to you, so I'm fed. And it's just super easy rules that make for an easy to play army.
Yeah, fair. All right, getting to the end here. Flesh Eaters, surprising to me. Again, not very many matches played, so this is a little skewed, right? But I do think I haven't played too many Flesh Eater Courts armies, but what I do know, especially in the meta now, a lot of GCs, and those GCs are protected now to where they can spam their summoning, right? And then you just get overloaded with a bunch of attacks, right? That's basically how Flesh Eater works. These guys are getting a new book soon, so I'm not sure how these guys will play. But currently in the new GHB, they are doing decent, and they're not too far behind. So we'll see how that goes as the new book comes out.
Yeah, this army, I like this army. I'm currently building them. I got the box back here.
Nice.
They've got like one of the best GCs in the game with the courtier. I can't remember what's his name. He can fly. He's got like 8 wounds. So he's fast. He can bring back your units. So they've got some of the best GCs in the game right now. Then you take a double reinforced unit of Crypt Horrors. It's like 36 wounds. And you give 2 heroes that are bringing them back on 5s and 6s on 6 dice in both hero phases. We're talking about, unkillable blocks of units sitting on objectives. And then you can throw in like a Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist to give you some punch. But even those Crypt Horrors in a GV, I think they're like, 3 attacks each. You can give them D3 attacks from
The
Abhorrent,
spell.
the Archregent, and then you give them another attack from the Abhorrent Ghoul King.
Yeah.
So then we're talking like 6 to 7 attacks a piece, all re-rolling to hit because they're next to an Abhorrent Ghoul King. It's a massive amount of attacks. They're in a great spot right now. The only thing I could ask GW to give me in the book is some battle tactics that don't suck. I think that's the only thing holding this army back right now is a deep, like they can take the day as ours because we're already taking a bunch of GCs anyway. So the grand strategy's fine. We just need like 1 or 2 decent battle tactics, and this army is top tier. Just you can't shoot it off. And they're like one of the only armies that is as resilient as Gitz are right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the new book. I'm very interested. I know this is a very beloved army by a lot of people from a lore perspective, and just it's such a cool army. I'd like to get into it more, but we'll see what happens with the new book. But they're in a great spot right now, so we'll see what happens. I know this number will definitely jump up. This match is played, so we'll see how it goes. My beloved Gloomspite, which I know people are not happy playing right now. I know they're very egregious right now with the Squig herd and all the Squigs. I as much as I hate to say it, they're probably gonna get nerfed. It's understandable. I get it. I will say, I have been looking at lists other than spiders. I have seen winning lists from not just Squigs, which is the most egregious part of it, but I've seen winning lists from Trogs, and I've seen winning lists from Moon Clan lists, like Loon Smashes. Like, I get that the Squig herd will be nerfed, but maybe people should start looking at more of the other sub factions because they're I'm a Gloomspite fan at heart, so the fact that they were so bad for so long, I don't mind them being egregious right now. I know they're gonna get nerfed, and that's fine, but I like where they're at. I love the new book, and I wish spiders were better. But that's kind of my thought process. 80 matches, 14 tournament results, and 54% win rate. That's probably gonna continue to rise a little bit until they're nerfed, but they'll end up going back down a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, this army, I played it first time, the new book this weekend at a tournament. It was my final game. So, I'm already 2-0, and was no surprise that I was playing Gloomspite here. It is, it was Squig spam.
Yep.
So it's just hard to deal with.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, I do agree, like, the Trogs, like, both sides, Dankhold and the Fellwater, just fantastic war scrolls.
Yep.
I think there's play in the Moon Clan as well. Like, the tool set that's coming to the table right now with that book at the points that they're at, you'd be hard pressed, I think, to play the book wrong. Like, I think anything you want to play right now, Spiders maybe a little rough, but everything else in that book is just you're winning. I see you at least going positive in any tournament you take them to.
Yeah, 3-2 is definitely easy to do with Gloomspite. Even if you aren't a top tier player, I think if you're running Squig spam, you can easily get to 3-2. It's not hard to play. You're really just rushing stuff in. Even if things die, you're going to bring them back. You still have ways to bring them back from the moon. So I think they're going to be even more of a popular army. The only reason I think that there's only 80 matches played and it's not higher is because it's hard to get the models right now. Because they're just sold out everywhere because everyone wants to use them. Luckily, I bought all of my models before the new book. But yeah, this is my love, and This is the army that I'm taking this year for pretty much everything if I can. I'll end up taking this to LVO next year, no matter what the GHB is, and no matter what the status is. This is what I'll take to LVO next year. So definitely my love, and I'm glad that they're in the spot that they're in after being bad for so long. Moving on to IDK. What are your thoughts here? Not a ton of showing. 59 matches played. I think they're good. I think they're still decent here.
Yeah. So what hurt IDK in the previous, we've said it a bunch, is bounty hunters. You wanted to run thralls. You wanted to run big blocks of thralls.
Reavers. And Reavers.
And Reavers, yeah. And they just got decimated by bounty hunters. But the thing is, like, now that bounty hunters is gone, they're back on the table. And you want to support them. And your supports for those guys are GCs. So you're already taking the GCs. You're already taking the big blocks to grab the objectives and be blenders. I think, like, this army is looking very solid.
Not to mention, for something that shoots a lot with the new shooting meta, you can't shoot them off the board right away. Like,
yes,
you're gonna move a shark up the board and be like, okay, sure, take the shark, and now I'm gonna move everything else up, right? So I think they play real well into that.
Yeah, they're a great anti-shooting army. I think they're literally like a couple of point adjustments away from being right at the top. If they could make, the Sharks, I think they pushed the Sharks too high.
Yep, agreed. Well, they were just so overused, right? With the last GHB, Mason Knox, he mentioned that they're just overpriced right now, and I agree. They're probably a little high in point pricing, but even that, right? I still think they're in a good spot right here. I definitely don't think they're in a presence to where they're going to get nerfed. So we'll see how they do midway through the season when we do this again.
The thing is, like, when they nerfed Sharks in the last season, people were only taking Sharks because Thralls and Reavers were getting destroyed by bounty hunters.
Yep, exactly. It's one of those things where we were talking about earlier where bounty hunters were so egregious that you had to change not taking GVs and take something else. And that's where the Sharks excelled at that point. So that's why they got such a huge price increase, is because that's everything that was used for IDK was a bunch of Sharks. So this one we don't have to spend too much time on because, again, they got a new book. So this will be completely changed. I think that they will... Hopefully we will do this next week or the week after, a new tome review on this, and kind of tier all of the units like we did with the other books. But just my initial thoughts for the KO book, I was down on them at first, but as you start looking at some of the ways you can actually get into combat now and some of the little combos and stuff that you can do now, I think they're in a good spot, and I think they'll probably be pretty decent in this GHB. So I'm excited to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I would say the new book to me feels more balanced.
Agreed. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're all going to sit in the corner and then drop outside of you turn 2 and just try to shoot you and get the double turn and then shoot you again and then the game's over. That option isn't on the table anymore, but they gave you so many other little tools. It's not going to play like we've been playing KO for, the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And I think that's going to take some getting used to. I don't know I don't know if it's at a 60% win rate, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see it drop just because it's really a different army. Like,
yeah.
And so it's going to take some time to learn it.
So I don't know if you've seen the new Season of War battle report where Carl took these guys against Jordan. And even Carl, for being a KO player, he played him kind of the same way they've always been perceived to play. And he ended up losing that match. And I think he realized during that match where, they should probably play it a little bit differently. You can get them more into combat. You can be more aggressive with them than just, shoot, retreat, fly high over here, rinse and repeat. You can be a lot more aggressive with these guys now, where they didn't have that before. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with KO over time. Next is the we only have. It's funny. We only have 3 more armies. One of them doesn't really count, but we'll see if you guys can predict what the last 2 of them are. But this is the goose in the room, Lumineth Realm Lords. They are highly played right now and very much winning many tournaments right now. I don't know much about this army. I haven't played it very much, thank God. I know it's extremely rough to play against this army. The stupid Total Eclipse is one of the worst spells I've ever seen. It's so bad. But I know this army is just taking tournaments left and right, and it is extremely hard to go up against these guys in this new GHB.
Yeah, Lumineth, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't played them more with Cameron having the army. They just, the Sentinel spam is back. It's back, yep. Baby.
Yep.
It's here to stay.
Yep.
If you're not taking 60 Sentinels, you're taking Techless. And
yeah.
You're taking Sentinels with them.
Yeah.
And it's when you come down to like a 2 objective, battle plans where, your death ball can go up, sit on 1 objective, and just blow anything up that comes anywhere near the 2nd objective, you're going to have a very hard time getting Lumineth to lose a game. Yeah. I mean, Gitz is like the only one that I know of, and that's just because you can keep killing my squigs. I'm just going to keep bringing them back.
Yeah.
So you're never gonna win that game. So it's just they're going to be oppressive.
I'm actually looking. Do you know what Helon? Do you know what that gives you? I can't remember what sub-faction that is. I'm going to look it up right now because I know that is the most winning sub-faction right now. I just don't play these guys enough, and which is surprising. I'm sure I'm going to. Let's see. What does Helon give you? Where is it? I'm sure someone's going to correct me in the comments, but... Where is their sub-factions? I'm struggling to find that.
Helion, let's see here. You can say you can use 2 friendly units with Aether Quartz. Oh no, excuse me, that's the wrong one. In your shooting phase, when you pick a friendly Helion
one
unit,
to the attacks characteristics. Oh yeah. That's super gross. I already don't like it. Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, that's what it is. It's in your shooting phase. They get that extra attack. Yeah.
20 Sentinels shooting an extra time. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's real bad. Yeah, I can see that being oppressive. They're gonna get nerfed, right? Battle Scroll, they're getting nerfed, right?
I mean, they got nerfed. They got nerfed again. How high do we want to set the ceiling? I mean
65% win rate. That's extremely high.
Yes. Oh, they need it, but it's
yeah. I don't know. Mean,
if you get Sentinels, which is what's impressive. If you nerf Techless too, they still got some play with like Dawn Riders. There's still some stuff in there that's got some that it can be competitive. So I don't know. I just think we're going to be spending some more time dealing with how do you build lists around Lumineth right now.
Yeah, that's crazy because we didn't even talk about Lumineth last GHB. They weren't even really in the mix, and now they're super impressive right now. All right, these guys. Let's talk about Suns real quick. Because I think everyone thought when the new book came out, Suns was just not going to play. They were not made for the new GHB. They weren't going to take, they don't have any GCs. They can't take any of those new battle tactics. And here they are at 69% win rate. Granted, there's not a huge number of matches played here, but I think the issue here is that a lot of the lists are taking these GCs and they can't deal with giants. They can't remove them. And if there's one thing giants can do well, it's removing units. And when they do that, you have less and less points to take with your GCs and whatnot. I think these guys were the sleeper pick, and I don't think a lot of people saw this coming. And now, people were like, "Oh, well, I guess I'm putting my sons away," but I don't think that's the case at this point. I think they're still in a very good spot, even though they don't have these new mechanics.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing here, and I come back to it, is 2 to 3 objective maps. When you're running 4 megas, you put 2 on each objective. We're now talking like 60 wounds or 60 body count on those objectives. So you have to go to those objectives, and you have to have an answer to 35 wounds apiece. So 70 wounds, and you're probably going to have to kill both of them to get that objective.
Right.
And there's not a lot of armies that just bring in enough damage to kill 70 wounds on turn 1 or turn 2 or even turn 3 sometimes. Like we're talking like 3 rounds of trying to kill to get one objective, and then by that point they've already scored so much that there's no coming back, and it just crushes like the middle and bottom tier armies. They just don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are definitely one of those things where you have to watch out for in your local meta on who's taking sons, and still prepare to do your DPS check, right? To make sure you can take down sons of Behemoth and not just worry about just GCs. Because again, you run a lot of GCs, that's less damage you're going to be able to do to these giants, right? And I think that's part of the problem. I don't think people saw this one coming. I don't think people saw a lot of the Giants holding up the win rate here for the new season. And then last, and again, you can't take this is just like, there's 20 matches, right? So obviously you can't take this with a grain of salt, but this is the highest win rate percentage, but there's just not a lot of matches played, so it skews the numbers quite a bit. I've been playing around with big Waagh lists because I have pretty much all of the orc models, and you can do some cool things with this. I don't know if they're that good. I don't think they're 70% win rate good, but they are interesting. I think they give you a different feel of orcs in this new GHB.
I don't think the slide moved forward.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I'm using the actual PowerPoint. Right. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, big Waagh. 20 matches played, 1%, 70%. I definitely see some new lists coming here. I see some new, I feel like Big Waagh is going to be played a lot more. I think they've got a lot of mechanics that they can use now, and because we're dealing with GCs, they've got a lot of those between all 3 armies that can work together. So I think that we're going to see more Big Waagh. I don't know if I don't think they're 70% win rate good. But I could see seeing more of these in the new season.
So I do play Big Waagh. I love Big Waagh. I don't play Ironjawz, but I do collect orcs. So I think almost all of these results are related to Gregory over in the SoCal United team.
Okay.
He's been playing Big Waagh, and he won Small Town Throwdown with Big Waagh.
Okay.
And so like this army really excels at like the turn 2, maybe turn 2, but usually the turn 3 clapback.
Okay.
And also having GCs, especially the Wargog Prophet with his stare. So you want that, you need a GC that's going to do a battle tactic that's going to kill a unit. The Wargog Prophet with his stare, I've taken down an Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist without losing a wound.
Oh, I know. That thing is so stupid oppressive. And then you give him the aspect, right, where you can revive on that 3-up
Mm-hmm.
when he dies with that
Yep.
stupid ability, and he just is going to keep going. That thing is. First time I played Bone Splitters with that War Guard Prophet, uh, that was one of the most miserable matches I've ever played in
Yeah.
AOS. That stupid little model just killing things left and right without even a blink of an eye. It was
Yep.
crazy.
Gregory runs 2 of them in his list. He also runs 10 brutes. Like I said with Ironjawz, it's even worse in Big Waagh because you can get them +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and then you Waagh, you get +1 attack. So a 10-man unit of brutes is now hitting on 2s, wounded on 2s, -2 rend, 2 damage each, and they've got 4 attacks each.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. I think we'll see
So
more Big Wall. I don't think they're 70% though. I don't think they do well against like Lumineth. I think
no.
Lumineth would do some serious damage to Big Wall. I think they might play well into Gitz, maybe.
I think Gitz beats them. Lumineth does, if you're playing them like Gregory's list, Lumineth doesn't get to shoot anything but the units. So because the GCs, they're all GCs.
Okay.
And they teleport. And then you get pluses to their charge also off the teleport because of your wall points. So they don't play well into Gitz. And Gregory, the thing is, like, there's 20 matches played, and Gregory's a really good player. He's like one of the best in SoCal United. So like he's gonna skew these points, but Big Waagh definitely has legs. But him, Gregory, and Aaron are just some really good players that play Big Waagh at a very high level, and just many other people just don't see it.
Yep. Agreed. Mason, I see you. I don't think Kruleboyz regiment around can you. I don't think you can use it for Big Wall because they're a destruction army, right? I don't think
You can use Kruleboyz in Big Waagh, yeah. I run 6 Bolt Boys.
No. You can use the Kruleboyz, but I don't think the regiments of renown you can use, right? Because I think.
You
Oh no,
can.
I guess you
can,
could.
You can use because they don't have the Kruleboy. The general doesn't have Kruleboyz.
Oh, it's Kruleboyz. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could. Man, what a value piece for Big Waugh then.
Yeah.
It's a good point, Mason. It's a good point.
Yeah, and then you can bring in a the shaman and give them 5s. Like so.
Yeah.
The thing is you don't need the regiment renown in that army because you're already getting the mortal wounds on 6s.
Yeah.
And that's what the regiment does. And then they have the focus fire ability, which you could just do anyways.
Right. No, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I forgot. It would be Kruleboyz, not destruction. That would make sense. Yeah. We'll see if that Kruleboyz regiments of renown gets into Suns. I actually think there can be some shenanigans with the Sons of Behemoth taking that regiment to renown because now you got some good shooting.
Yeah.
Now you're in trouble because now you have a front line that you have to get through, but you also have a back line you have to worry about too. So that's probably going to be crazy.
And that Killbow gets the hero keyword, so now you've got a GC as well.
Does he get the?
Yeah.
Does he get leader or hero?
He gets hero.
Okay.
So he'll be considered a GC, which means you can do your GC battle tactics and objectives.
That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so that's it. That's all we got. Here's the summary, right? This is kind of all of them put up. Oh, hold on. Gotta move this. This is the summary of everything. All of the armies put together. So some things to note here. It's still early, right? I think we're still really early into the season. We haven't really seen the shift in the meta yet. It's people just trying to make things work. So I guess the first question is, do we see any huge changes to the meta, or is it going to continue kind of with the Lumineth, Gitz, Suns kind of meta right now? Do we see anything different happening in the next couple of months? I think KO will get on. They might drop a little bit depending on the new book, but I don't know if they'll drop too much. I don't know. I think they're still in a decent spot.
I think the biggest change I think we'll see two books that I think will see the biggest changes on is Blades of Khorne and Soulblight, which I think are the next two chaos is Slaanesh and Khorne, and then the next two death, Soulblight and OBR. And I think
I
with
don't think it'll be Soulblight. I think
well,
it'll be Flesh Eater.
they removed Soulblight and OBR off of the GW website.
Oh,
So
interesting.
they removed Khorne and Slaanesh off the website, and they removed OBR and Soulblight off the website.
Okay.
So that's why I'm leaning towards that's what the next book is.
That's
and
good.
I think Soulblight is probably one of the only armies that, with the right points cost, pairs well into Gitz and Lumineth and Sylvaneth, because you set up your skeletons. If Sylvaneth jumps in and kills them, okay, well, I just summoned them back.
Right.
They got the same mechanics as Gitz. Same thing. If Gitz comes into you and crushes you, or you crush them, they bring back stuff. You bring back stuff. So then it's just who's getting that objective, and then you can't shoot them off with Lumineth because they're just going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
So, and that's
I definitely
60 zombies.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the zombie meta come back because I love the way zombies play. They're such a cool unit. So anyway, I think that's kind of where we're going to end it. I do want to do these every couple months with the meta just to see where the shift is, and I like discussing how we can counter this meta in your local tournaments. So that way it's helpful for the community to see what's going on. I don't think a lot of people really take the time to figure out what's going on with the meta and how it's shifting. So this is a good way to look at that. And I think as we do this, if I could do this 3 times for the current season, I'd like to do that. So that's kind of where I want to go with that. And then lastly, obviously James, thanks for jumping on here. You're a trooper. You're very good at knowing a lot of these armies just because you've TO'd a lot and you kind of know where these rules are and how they work with and against other armies. So I appreciate you jumping on here. Coming up on House of Hobbies, again, I want to get my hands on the new KO book and kind of review it and tier it like we did the other books. So that's coming up. Also, we'll probably start doing a couple more interviews with some vendors and whatnot and people that are into the hobby. So we'll probably end up trying to do more of that as well. And then just, obviously what we're taking to tournaments locally and things like that. So any last minute comments from you, James?
Only thing for me is I'm really interested to see how what armies win out at Adepticon at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be like the first real big test of most of the solid books right now. Gitz, Lumineth coming into the meta,
Beasts,
and Beasts of Chaos, and I'm really curious to see what the statistics are after that event.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'll be a good one to see how these numbers shift for sure. All right. On that note, we're gonna end the stream here. Again, if you can go check out the YouTube page, we have all of our videos on there. Gitz review, Beast of Chaos review, new players, tricks and tips on there. So definitely go check those out. Subscribe, follow, comment. Let me know what you guys would like to see. And we will see you next Tuesday. Have a good night.